Oh, there it is. Oh, messed up again. Come on. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Sorry about that, guys. So now we need to actually make another one, our last but not least one, and this is going to be the income tax. And this is basically what's going to display to the user what their income tax is. So we need this variable to store all this information or to store the formula or the calculation. So let's do output to the user their calculated income tax. All right, so we just made our constants on this up here, and here we just made our variables. So the user can input and store these, and so there we go. So now what we need to do is we need to request the user's input. So to request the user input, remember we do our system.out. So let's do request input from the user. So the request is this to in order to accept the user's input, we need to do our system.out.print, and we want to print enter your gross income. So remember we did print too because we want that cursor to be right at the end of the line of the statement so the user can input those. We don't want to do print line because print line, remember, takes the cursor to the next line of code. We don't want to do that. We want the cursor to be at the end of that statement. So now what we need to do is we need to make our gross income equal to whatever the scanner imports. And if you guys are kind of confused about how the scanner works, in my last tutorial, and actually my 7th and my 8th tutorial, I went over in detail of how the scanner works and how we implement it in our programs. So on this program, we're going to do our gross income, and we want to set our gross income equal to the reader dot next double. And so we just told the user, the system, to, hey, whatever that double is that the user inputs, we want it to scan and we want it to equal to that gross income. And that's basically sums it up of what we just did. So I went into greater detail, like I said before in my last tutorials, I went into greater details about the scanner and all like that. So go check those out if you're having problems, or this is your first time watching the tutorials. So you kind of want to catch up and start from the beginning and kind of go to the end. So now we need to do this. We need to request the user's number of dependents. Let's do system.out. Capitalize the S. And yeah, so Java, as you can see here, Java is very case sensitive. You gotta make sure you have all your characters capitalized when it's supposed to be and lowercase when it's not. So let's do enter your number of dependents. And enter. So we just had the user enter a number of dependents, and we want the num dependents to equal that reader next int. All right, and move the S. Num dependents. Go ahead and capitalize the D. So D. All right, so there we go. So we just made our, and right here we need to actually make this a capital D. So let's make that capital D, and then in our variable up here we need to make this a capital D also, like that. It's a little logical error sometimes you make, so you got to kind of scan when you see an error and say, hey, what did I mess up at? Okay, there it is. So sometimes it's kind of easy to find the problem, and sometimes it's not, but we'll go into debugging and all that stuff in our later tutorials. So now we just told the user to enter that number of dependents, and we told that the system to whatever the reader scans, as long as it is an integer, we want it to store it as a number of dependents. So whatever that integer is, we want the system to actually equal it to the number of dependents. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to actually do our calculations, and to do our calculations, we want the taxable income to equal taxable income, and we want taxable income to equal the gross income our gross income minus the standard deduction And we want the standard deduction to be minus the dependent deduction. And we want the dependent deduction to be time. That's supposed right. Dependent deduction. See, like right here, you kind of got to go back and make sure you dependent deduction. Actually, I spelled it wrong here. Deduction. All right. So we just did is we just did our standard deduction, and right here we need to change this and put that standard deduction. All right. So we just let's see what's going on here. So let's see dependent deduction, and so we have everything correct. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to do that dependent deduction times, which is the asterisk. The asterisk is times, and we need times the number of dependents. All right, so we just made our calculations. The taxable income is basically going to calculate what they're able to be taxed with. So we just did our gross income minus the standard deduction, and the standard deduction minus the dependent deduction, and that number times whatever the number of dependents are to learn what they're taxable for. So now we need to set our income tax variable equal to the taxable times taxable income times tax rate, which we set up here. We see up here we set our tax rate, and let's go ahead and end that. So now what we just did is we made our formula for our income tax to equal that the taxable income that we just did right here, and we had the tax rate, which we set up here is our constant, which doesn't change, to 20%. And let's go ahead and now we need to tell the user what their income tax is. So let's do displays the income tax. Sorry about my typing, guys. So, and then we do system.out.print line, because it's how we don't care what the cursor is. We want the cursor to go to the next line of code, and the income tax is, and let's put a dollar sign there, and the dollar sign, and let's do plus income tax. All right, so there we go. So we just did our program, our income tax program, and we learned about constants. So let's go ahead and run this program. All right, and so here we go. Enter your gross income. Let's enter a gross income of $100,000. So let's do one. So we just did a gross income of $100,000. Enter. Now it says enter your number of dependents. So let's go ahead and enter our number of dependents to equal to 4. And there it is. So our income tax is $16,000 and $400. So our income tax is $1,600 and $16,000 and $400. So there you go, guys. You just learned about constants and how to write a income tax calculator program using constants, and learning how to implement constants in your program and variables also. So I thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.